I, for some reason or other, we wore they gave us these heavy, long shoes, with ties on them.
Like a boot.
And every day, Fran and I would cry when we put them on because the kids would make fun of us,
The nuns gave them to you?
Yeah.
Who gave you the shoes?
The nuns. And we didn't like them.
That's one more thing to blame on Emily.
And
You know what, they set an age order.
and Fran and I would take Bill down that real state, that Kunda, and we would let it go for a little bit and then pull.
You play chicken with me.
You're lucky you're still here.
We played chicken. You're not the oldest Jordan that you're up.
I remember something else about that too. When my mother came home from the hospital with Bill, they said, "We have too many kids, we don't want any more." So my dad put him in a dresser drawer and shoved him under the bed. Then they felt so bad that they brought him out.
I still have nightmares about it.
You see box springs over your head.
They were bad.
Who said that?
Me.
Oh, you didn't want them?
No, them.
Oh, them.
No, I liked them.
You know, it's funny, they
So was it
they actually
Pete?
set an age order.
Yeah.
Oldest to youngest.
Yep.
And they set
So-
the
That is all
third
the way.
oldest, fourth oldest.
So who didn't want him?
Fran and Mary.
Fran and Mary didn't want Bill.
Yeah.
Well, you can see why.
Well, my little problem was Dickie Roop was a little older than me. And I don't know why. I always said something that he didn't like. For some reason or another, he'd come after me and I'd run down to that concrete walkway going into the building between the row houses, and I'd hurry up. He could never catch me. Let's see, there was something else I wanted to say. Oh, there's a little girl, 3 houses up. They lived on Dresden Way, and she was up on the, seemed like there was the kitchen was up maybe almost 2 stories because Dresden Alley was a little higher, and she used to say, "Annie Moran." She would say, "Margie Gretchen, come on over and play."
It was like email, huh?
I remember when
Wait
Pete.
a minute, I got one more.
Oh, okay.
Don't cut me off.
You're just getting started.
That's right, Annie, he is the elder.
Me, Joe, John walked from Carnegie Avenue, 62nd Street, over to Etna, and up to Cherry City to this apple farm. I knew somebody up there. We had a wagon and 2 burlap bags, 50-pound bags. And we started up there. When we finally got up there, what did we neglected to do? We were so excited, we found a pear tree. And instead of going to save the stuff on the top, we should have kept the pear trees on top. No, we put it on the bottom. When we got home, they was all smashed. But they didn't care. We ate every bit of it. Okay, now it's your turn.
No, I'm waiting my turn now.
I remember.
Yeah, we pulled it up in the wagon. Yeah.
I can remember that.
trouble most often?
What was that?
Who used to get in trouble most often?
Who got in trouble most often?
Well, I recall a story where John was in jail for some theft of fruit.
You had to bring that up, huh?
Oh, no,
John-
that
John
was
was
the
in jail,
funniest
too.
thing was,
Hear
this
you.
kid wanted to
Yeah,
rob.
Hear what she said, Joe? You were in jail too.
You know
All
why?
about this far away.
Hey, you was in
Hey,
there
Over in
because
Sharpsburg. And
first time got you out of jail. I said you should have left the mirror. You borrowed the car. He didn't know where it was at. We had to go hunting for the car. I said, if you ever lend that car, I'll tell you, I don't know what I'd do with you. And he
Yeah.
was in jail.
that magistrate, whatever it was, he said something about the police. I said, I don't keep tabs on the Pittsburgh police.
Yeah, and you left the car out of gas, that's why you left it there.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, right on the railroad track up there.
Yeah.
Just so you don't think I went to jail for anything, the way this happened, it was in the summer. I was talking out there on the street, and this kid, he said, "Hey, John, come here." He said, "You got a car and I don't have a car." He said, I'm gonna rob the saving and loan if you wanna drive the car." I said, "You must be
Business
crazy."
proposition.
He did rob the saving and loan. They were trying to find where he was. I don't know why I was in Sharpsburg, but this cop, he said, "Get in a car." So we went in there, and then that jail was built like this, you know, cells on each side. And this big fat Italian, he had that, you know, he
Billy
got
Kelly
his
Club,
hand
yeah.
with it. He said, "This is the last time I'm gonna ask you, where is Popeye Reese?" I said, "I don't know." He kept walking back until I got to the back of the cell, pushed me in and locked the door. Next thing I know, I had to come over. He had a bag of peanuts. I said, he said, "If you're gonna act like a monkey, you might as well eat like one." So they gave me that. But then they finally let me go. They got the guy, he wasn't wrapped too tight. He was,
Yeah, I remember Popeye.
yeah, he was in jail, and the blood drive, you know, the Red Cross come to, if any of the prisoners want to donate blood. So this Popeye, he grabbed the lady, he wanted to escape with her. But I can still see that guy with that blackjack hitting his hand. This is the last time I'm asking, I could.
So who sprung you?
What?
Who sprung you?
How
Was
did-
it,
how
was
did
it
you get out of
evidence
jail?
or lack of evidence?
Well, yeah, I guess he must have called my dad, because my dad had come on a streetcar and get me.
Okay, that's it.
So what did you call your dad? Ota? What do you,
Butchie was the uncle.
yeah,
Otto was the dad.
Ata. Huh. What did you call your mom?
Mommy.
Yeah,
Mommy. Okay. I think it's your turn.
No, Joe didn't have a turn.
Joe, you got a story?
Joe?
You got a story?
Oh,
You got any old stories?
I remember what, me, you, and him had our tonsils taken out at St. Margaret's Hospital.
Yeah.
And my dad had to paint the fence to pay for it.
I remember it was in a cubicle, and you had them glass partitions halfway up, and I remember in the bed after the tonsils, I'm kicking there trying to get some fresh air. That's all I remember. I don't remember you two going with me.
Oh,
Huh. I find out that all three of us were in the CC cap. I didn't know John was in it. I knew Joe was in it. But I remember in 1939, it was the summer of 1939, and we had a weekend off. I was in the CC camp in Alexandria, Virginia, and they had this weekend off, so me and this guy from, right at the beginning of the turnpike. In fact, we walked on the part, this guy was with me, we hitchhiked home from Virginia up to Pittsburgh, and we walked on the turnpike that they were still pouring concrete on it. And this guy lived in, I can't think of it, somewhere like McKeesport. And he says, well, I'm gonna leave you. Well, he left me, and I started on I forget, Route 30, I guess. And then I got so far, and hitchhiking again, and this car pulled up, and geez, it was the same group of guys that I played basketball with. They was in a tournament up in Erie, so they rode me all the way home. But I got to come home that weekend.
All right, Ann, you had plenty of time now.
So that'd be a good one.
I have a lot of stories. I may have to come back again after Bill.
Good.
Pete would come home from the dance or whatever, and my bedroom was the girl's bedroom was at the top of the steps, and then he would pass it and go farther. And every night he'd say, "La noche," to my mother and dad. They were sleeping for hours, but every night he said, "La noche."
What does that mean, though?
Good night.
Oh, okay.
We carry that over now, Joni and I.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Yeah,
Lock and Nutch, Mama V.
okay. Uncle Joe and I said it last night, right? We said La Noche.
La noche last night, you told Joni.
I did what?
You told Joni last night, La noche.
Oh, yeah. She said, Dobro dan.
Oh, good done. Good day.
Good night. Good day.
Okay, next story. You can tell more than one.
I have to think about it. He stopped me and I lost my train of thought. Was that you,
Little
Jim?
caboose, maybe.
What?
Caboose. Not a full train.
Can I remember you from the 36 flood when you shoveled mud off the railroad tracks?
Yeah. We had a big,
Just
them
take
big
a few
hardwood
days.
shovels. Oh, I could hardly lift it. We had to clear the mud off the railroad tracks down around 42nd Street or somewhere. And I would got up to, I need a pair of boots. And of course I didn't have no boots. But this guy by the name of Whitten, he lived 2 doors down from Roger's store. He loaned me his boots. And I'd come home and I'd make it as far as Roger's store, and I'd sit right down on the sidewalk and lean against the house, and next thing you know, somebody give me a hot foot. And boy, did I jump up and wake up.
Oh,
How much did you get for
That's
shoveling?
the end of that one. That's all I can think of right now.
How much did you get for shoveling the mud?
I don't even remember that. We had to throw it onto the flat cars. You know what a harpoon shovel is. It's almost 18 inches long. And you get that mud, and then by the time you get it up onto the car and you throw it up there, it was stuck, you couldn't get it. You had to dig the mud off the shovel. It was a job. How much I made, I don't remember. And of course, whatever I did, it had to go home. So never had two nickels to rub against, but it was fun. I think we had a good time, I'll tell you. I think it was a great, I've been reading a book about the greatest generation, and some of the stories are fantastic. And there's quite a few times it's mentioned of some of these guys, soldiers, sailors would say, we had all kinds of problems, but we learned, majority of us learned from the CC camps. And it was, I've met so many people in my life I can't, I've been so many great people. There's a, if you recall, the Pope, when he just left, he made a couple of speeches. And in those speeches, he definitely remembered Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, Dorothy Day, and Merton. So I'm thinking, Dorothy Day, 1960, I'm still at Hilltop Lumber, and this agent, insurance agent, and he showed me a picture. He said he got it out of Pittsburgh Catholic. It was a picture of Peter Maurin. Peter Maurin was with Dorothy Day, but there never seemed to be any problems together. They worked great, and there was nothing, everything was businesslike. And they wound up owning quite a few farms in Pennsylvania and New Jersey and New York. They called it the Catholic Worker Movement. And they was instrumental in getting these farms and getting people, the down and outers, come to the farms, work the farms, and that was your keep. But in the meantime, I find out about Dorothy Day, and Dorothy Day was here in Pittsburgh a few years ago, in fact, right before she died. I thought, boy, this is going to be, I'm going to be going around in circles here. I got to go. So I went over to Duquesne, and I actually shook her hand. And I thought, boy, oh boy, you talk about being around the world, I'm really going at it. It was fantastic because she said, another Peter Maurin. I said, yes. And it was terrific. I can't believe all the stuff that I was involved in, historical, and it all wound up with me here with all you guys. This was fantastic. What a lifetime I've had. It was great. And I wouldn't have given it up for the world. And for this affair today, John, he was the instigator. Joni was the mover. And I was in between somewhere.
And too.
Ann was the mover.
And we got to thank Joni
Thanks,
for.
John.
You've heard of wedding crashers.
Oh,
I'm the party crasher.
okay.
How are
Thank
you?
you.
Hi, I'm Desiree. I'm the executive director here at Fair Oaks. I wanted to come in and say hello.
Good,
Happy
great.
birthday.
Thank you.
Wonderful. You have your family with you.
Yes.
How lucky can you be?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and
Can you imagine?
here 6.
Wow. Isn't that
All in
amazing?
the correct ages. She's the oldest, me, him,
Her.
Ann, and Bill.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 children.
Yes.
Wow.
Still
Your mother was a
living. Can
living
you
saint.
imagine? She's 96.
Great. I'm the oldest in my family. I have 4 brothers.
Already?
So, yeah. Oh boy. How was lunch?
Great.
Very
That was
good.
terrific.
I'm happy.
Thank you.
I had to stop in and say hi. So happy birthday.
Thank you. All right.
If you need anything, let us know.
Okay.
All right. It's good to see you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Bill, it's your turn.
Yeah, you say something.
Yeah, come on, Bill.
Bill.
Bill,
I know.
Slid right down 52nd Street.
Oh, that was. We used to go, when it snowed really heavy, we used to come down to 50,
Yeah,
wasn't
Bill
50,
remembers this
52nd
sled ride.
Street, yeah.
51st.
Bill remembers this sled ride.
53rd Street.
Him Petey's on his.
One afternoon, one evening, we hit a big bump. Pete Zunick was pilot, and I was kneeling behind him on this sled, and hit a big bump, and my arm slipped, my hand slipped under the runner of the sled, and it felt like somebody stepped on it. And I went down to the under the street light, and I looked, and
Oh.
so I went back and I was looking for it. And then I went home and I was going to try to pretend nothing happened and make my way through it until all the
Him and
noise
Petey
calmed
Jones
down.
came in, and he acted funny. I said, "What are you doing?" He was going upstairs, and he still looked fine. I showed me his hand, and me and I took him down to St. Margaret's.
Well,
So
then,
Bill,
if, some of you may not remember, but they would block the streets off where you could sled ride all the way up from Duncan all the way down to Butler Street. They would block it off and nobody could cross there. It wasn't patrolled, but it was something that was, everybody obeyed the law, and then the kids could sled ride all the way down 52nd Street, the 53rd. I remember running down because I heard him screaming down there. I don't know what happened after that. I lost track.
so Bill, here's what I want to know. All of these lovely gentlemen and ladies are your elder siblings. How did they interact with you as the baby? Were they protective? Did they?
Not some of my sisters.
Did they play tricks on you? So how did you have it as the baby?
I never got a bicycle when I was a kid.
There you go. It's always bicycle wagon.
I had a friend on Carnegie Street who had a bicycle, and he used to let me ride on the handlebars along Carnegie Street. And one day he decided to go down 51st Street, turn the corner and go down, and he got about down to the alley, and he said, I don't have any brakes." So I tried to leap off this thing. There's streetcars going by. And I tried to leap off this thing, and I got about a yard ahead of the bike, and it went over top of me. And so we had a few words and punches back and forth. He said, "I was just kidding." And thanks a lot.
so this 51st Street was a bit of a issue for you, it seems like.
Well, it seems like the baby always gets away with more. Did he
Being,
get away
being,
with
being
more?
a saint, I managed to.
But you know, for all that we went through, it made us better people. You know, all the problems that we had, we didn't have anything. But I think we came out better.
I think so too. This is one of the reasons I think why we are, look at this, how many families do you ever heard that has kids still around at our age? And so many of us, all I hear here is, well, there was 10 of us, there was this one, I'm the only one that's left. There's so many of that in this place.
Sure.
But I'm amazed that we went through all this stuff. It goes to show you, I guess, if you live right way and you put up with all your problems and come out ahead of the game, in other words. But it was, I think it was a life well worthwhile.
Yeah.
I remember I'm 4 years older than Bill, so I don't think he was in school yet, but I was reading to him. And I read it a couple times, I guess. Next thing you know, he could read that book. And I thought, how can that be? How can he read that book? It's good.
Child genius.
But you know, I have 20 great-grandchildren and 13 grandchildren. My family is almost 40 people.
Do you know how your parents met when they came to America?
I think they met over there, didn't they?
Yeah, I think probably through Mrs. Regina.
Oh, okay.
Was that here or in Croatia?
In Lawrenceville.
Lawrenceville.
Yeah, she was what was she, a grandmother? Is she our grandmother or friend?
She was just a friend.
Friend.
But they had a beer joint on Butler Street, and
Yeah.
so she seemed like she was always the godmother for a bunch of.
Their daughters.
I can always remember, I went with her one time to Regina's, and Mrs. Regina says, Katie, Czechoslovakia. You know what that is?
Say it again.
Czechoslovakia. Do you want a shot of whiskey?
Oh,
And she put that down her mouth and poured it down and went. That's the only time I ever saw her take a drink. And then Uncle Joe come over one time, and all the kids on Carnegie Avenue used to say, you shine a machine going to Uncle Joe's for a weekend. Uncle Joe lived over North Side, and he had a Ford with a rumble seat on it, and we'd wash the car, and then after that we'd go to his place for a day or two, and I remember also that. Oh, come on! Oh, the lady on Carnegie Avenue, the lady 1, 2, 3 doors down, she used to make white lightning. And my dad went down, this was on a Sunday, I remember, and he went down to Mrs. can't think of her name, went down to her place and she got a half a pint of whiskey. That's only a little wee bit like that. And my dad come back up, and him and Uncle Joe was in the living room, and they drank this half a pint. They was drunker than hoot owls, and they was both crying. Tears running down their eyes. They was drunker than a skunk. That's the only time.
so was Uncle Matt.
Oh, Uncle Matt, he was a funny guy, but he never bothered anybody. But I could vaguely remember him coming home this one day, one evening, a Saturday evening, and he's drunk, and he fell, and he scratched his whole nose all over. And then the next thing I know, he's working at St. Francis Hospital. He's washing clothes up at St. Francis Hospital. One of the clothes machines or that. That's all I remember of that one. But Matt, he worked in
On a farm.
no, before that, he worked at a Lucy Furnace, the steel mill right at the bottom. It used to be a steel mill right at the bottom of McCandless Avenue, and he worked there. But I don't know how long he worked there.
And Matt was your mother's brother?
Yeah.
Is he
Who
the
was
one they
Uncle
call
Joe?
Butch?
Huh?
Who was Uncle Joe?
Uncle
cousin.
Joe. I don't know how that relationship was.
He was a cousin.
Cousin. Okay.
But you know, Fran and I would see Uncle Matt walking, come toward the house, but way in the other block. And we'd see him. We thought he was sick. So we grabbed him under the arm and we dragged him home. If I'd known that today, I'd have let him sit there.
Isn't that what our dad said to you? Don't let him alone. He's drunk. He's not sick.
Well, we didn't know that.
Right.
What about, I remember you telling me about, there was a coal cars or something on Stanton Avenue that you used to get into the place after it was closed, and
I don't remember that.
Oh, right at the top, at Stanton Avenue, right at the, as soon as you come up and you go past the cemetery wall is on the right-hand side going up, and the end of that was woods, and that's where we always played, those woods. But if you go up that Stanton Avenue little piece, they made a brickyard, and they made brick, of course. And we would go in there, and nobody seemed to bother us. We used to take one of them cars and run the whole length of the place where the brickyard was. We'd go back and forth, push the car. Nobody bothered us. We never got pinched or anything. But one other time, I don't know who was with me. I don't know whether John was with me or not, but we was up in Stanton Avenue. The fire engine house is on the left as you're going up, and there's a street that goes back that way. I don't remember what the name of the street was.
That's where Jesse lives. That's Hawthorne.
52nd Firehouse.
No,
52nd and Butler.
No, this ain't, but this top of Stanton Avenue, the firehouse. Top of Stanton Avenue.
Oh, that was John Regina was the fire captain there.
I don't know who it was, but anyhow, there was a big lot alongside of it, and the house set way back, and they happened to have a pear tree in the middle of it from Stanton to the house, and of course, you know, you always get caught when you get that. So we're in the middle, and I had a half of a golf club, and we went so far, we had our pockets full of pears. Would you know the police came? And the police said, well, what are you guys doing here? Oh, we were playing golf with a half of a golf. So anyhow, they took us in the police car and took us down the corner of Stanton and Butler. In the meantime, whoever was with me, we're emptying out our pockets and putting the pears in the car, you know, and we left. The whole car was with our pockets full of pears, but we left. They didn't do nothing to us.
Hooligans.
yeah.
I'm going to confess everything, so.
John, it doesn't seem like you got in much trouble. John?
No, just Rob's bags, that's all.
There's one little brush.
Heck with these pears.
I was thinking of a time our Jimmy, he was just about 3 years old, and we had to put him in the hospital. I don't know why. So my wife and I went up to see him sometime. We went in the door, and there's Jimmy. He's in the crib, and there's another crib on top of it, just like a cage. I said, what in the world's going on here? And this colored cleaning lady, she said, don't worry, he won't stay inside, he's always jumping around. But she said, don't worry, he's going to get very, very well. He never eats his meal without blessing it. But can you imagine if you go see your son, he was standing up, he could stand up, but they had a tape shut that he couldn't get up.
You never had that problem with you, did they, Pete?
Uncle Bill, it's back around to you.
I was an altar boy, believe it or not. And the good father, Kebe, he had a taste for wine. And one day I was pouring and I thought I'd jerk him around a little bit. And I gave him a real short, and he kept, and I pretended I didn't notice what was going on. I lost a lot of points.
You become priest though, right?
Well, during all that, he mentioned altar boys. Well, they wouldn't let us go to, none of us were allowed to be altar boys.
Why not? By whom?
We didn't pay the tuition. Tuition was 50 cents a month. We couldn't pay the tuition, so you couldn't be an altar boy.
Pay to play there.
How did he?
I never paid.
Became an altar boy?
Huh?
How did he become an altar boy and you didn't?
He come later on. Things were getting better when
Oh,
they
okay.
could afford 50
You were
cents.
born in during the fat years,
It was
right?
the halo that got me.
It's a little
By the time-
rusted
by the
now,
time-
Bill.
By the time you came along, most of the older ones were out on their own, so your parents had the money to spend, right?
No, I think they knew the older ones were lost causes, so they were trying to save one of them.
One day after Mass, everybody, all the parishioners left, and I was in there with Kenny Wagner cleaning up. And I was putting away some linen or something, and I hear bang, bang, bang. And he's out there, there's a tray with candles and a little coin box, and he's out there. And it opens up, and all these coins fall, and the nun walks in. And I've always wondered where Kenny Wagner is today.
Purgatory.
And my friend Billy Campbell, no matter where we would go, he liked to drink. And he thought, boy, you make all kind of funny noises when you are warming up to take this shot of whiskey or a beer. And then he'd tell me that they went to, he was an altar boy too. And he said they always drank in the sacristy. They always stole the wine and drank the wine, and that's how he got his taste to everything. They're stealing the church wine.
I had a few glasses. All the older boys had little glasses too.
They had that taste of wine. So we were safe. We knew nothing about wine.
I think that's known as a fringe benefit.
Want to make sure it wasn't poison. That was all, just to save Father Kepe from angry parishioners.
What parish was that?
St. Mary's.
Assumption and 57th Street. I tell you, we was in the 8th grade, and it must have been graduation or something, and the priest, Father Score, when he would come into a classroom, he would speak in Croatian, and you had and all I could remember was "Zumite." Do you remember to take your message home to your parents? So he says, we would like to have the school painted. So the priest says, all right, we'll get the paint, and the 8th graders can paint the rooms. So we were there, and finally came lunchtime. Here we had looked, there was sandwiches and 2 cases of beer. Boy, I don't remember anything after that.
Which priest was it that said your last name Instead of Maurin, he called Maurin.
Oh, that was him too. That was Father Score. Maurin, he'd say. Maurin.
Because when Joan went over and looked at the cemetery, the graveyard, the U was a V.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how that transpired. That's beyond me. We can never find that out. But I do remember, there's a postcard somewhere of the ship that they come over on the St. Louis.
I got that postcard.
You got it? Oh, that's how it was that word. Okay. That they both came on. Johns Lee had a flea market out on somewhere a little bit past the Westinghouse Bridge. And I looked and I seen this, and then somewhere along the line I found out that it was the St. Louis that they come over on. And he says, "Here, you take it."
You say they came together?
I can't find anything else other than that. No, not together. They come separate.
But
I
on
don't
the
think they
same
met
ship?
until they came over here.
On the same ship?
Same ship, yeah.
Same time?
And maybe Kuma was the instigator of all these. I don't know. There's only one way we could find out is to see if we can find Mary Regina. I don't know whether she's still alive or not.
She mine probably isn't. She's a lot older than me.
Really?
Sure, them little girls were all grown up by the time we were born, because they
Well-
stood for us.
Well, I remember Mary used to go dancing, and I remember her dancing.
Uh-huh.
Well, I was in my 20s. She may be 10 years older. Oh, boy, she'd be over 100 then. Well, I guess not. She's not. And she married a guy by the name of Bob Lasky. And I went to school with this guy's brother, Bob Lasky. He went to Washington Trade too.
Well, just to think, in within a couple of years, you can actually stay in the school that you went. They're turning it into a hotel. Washington, the Washington Trade
yeah.
School.
How about that? Washington Trade, they're gonna make into a hotel apartments.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
It's a nice building.
That section we was in, that was a new part of the building. And I can remember, I can't think of the guy's name. He was a teacher, and he had one arm. He lost his arm.
Goss, his name was.
Yeah, he lost his.
He'd come swinging that one arm there, that wooden arm, you know.
Here, John
he
just said,
says-
what's his name?
Ankeny.
Ankeny.
No,
I'll never
that's not
forget
his
him
name.
with that wooden arm. I never got hit with it, but a lot of the other guys did.
Anyhow, you would come to the school and of course, you know, you want to talk. You got to talk. Kids always have to talk. And he says, "Okay, turn to page such and such." So this one kid, he said, "I'm not going to pay attention to him." So he come along, and that teacher came along and wrapped him alongside the head with that mechanical arm. Everybody says, "Yep, page 22. Everybody was on page 22. No problems after that. I can't think of his name. It's Goss.
Yeah. He had a wooden arm.
Who
Yeah.
told you the name?
I remember him.
Yeah, it's Goss. Yeah.
That's not what John
No,
said.
That's not what John
I
said.
remember his English teacher, Mrs. Maloney.
Yeah.
I remember
So much for
Newt
eyewitnesses.
Simon. He was a
You imagine how many people are in jail because of stuff like this.
Noss.
yeah.
He was a cabinet maker. And Egan was another cabinet maker, but everything he did was by hand. Noss, you had to do everything with the machine. All machine work. And we used to sneak over from the cabinet, from the carpenter's shop, over to the cabinet shop if we wanted to maybe get a couple of strips or something. And it would take us all day to saw these strips. So everybody would look for Mr. Allen. Mr. Allen was a carpenter, and as soon as he'd leave, some of us would just scoot over there and get somebody over there, cut these 2 or 3 pieces of lumber, and come back, and we'd be all set because we had half a day's work done in a half hour. But it was good. It was great.
What's the name you were saying, Uncle John?
I thought it was Ankeny.
No, that was no name.
I remember the arm, I guess, but not the name.
Yeah, probably got hit in the head enough times.
Now, where you guys went to, where did you go to high school then?
I didn't go to high school. No. I didn't have the clothes.
I remember him. He told Ida, he said, he thought he was in the 7th grade. And he said he wasn't going to school no more. So they sent him down Woodson trade, and they put him in the 9th grade.
You know,
So he jumped a grade.
he was playing hooky, John.
No.
And this guy, every Monday morning, he came in and said, "Mother, I know you send him, but he never gets there."
Yeah, it was the truant officer.
Yeah.
He always came at lunchtime, you know. So Mom would give him a bowl of soup.
Or a cup of coffee or something, yeah. I think he liked to come.
So John come in this one day at supper time. Of course, what did you have? Soup. John didn't like soup. So he sat down to ask Mommy, what have we got to eat? She said, soup. He said, anything's good for a hungry man.
You guys, there's a World War II. I think you're the only one went down to World War II. You have it down at the Heinz History Center. That's pretty interesting. Remember, went to World War II. That's
Yeah, I went to they asked me to come to the Heinz Center. And I took films of it, of my whole military career. They want to know everything. They must ask a million questions. I sat in that chair for a whole solid hour asking questions. They have it all down there now. One of these days it'll be done, and anybody who wants to can go over and see what my problems were. Of course, you know, there's a lot of times when you think how bad the wars were. I always get into the military for some reason or another. And how great it was. Mr. Camel came and asked me one day, and he says, "Where are you going to go?" I told him I was going to go to the Marines. Boy, that was a saver. It never lasted. I don't think I'd ever come out of that alive. There was so much devastation that when I went to school, after I got into the Navy, they said, they must have people who know what your conditions are by looking at your resume. And you know, I was 6 feet tall. And you know, it's kind of unorthodox to be able to put a little guy 5 feet tall in charge of a group of guys that are probably older and much taller than you. So I think it would come to the point where a lot of that has to do with that. Because when I come out of the Navy, I went to school in Richmond, Virginia first, for 1 month. And I come out of there second class, and that's a big jump. So I figure that's the only reason I got that second class. Then when my ship got sunk, everybody who was on the ship got a jump in their rank. Then I made first class. Of course, I didn't deserve any of that, but I thought I did the best I could with it. And it wasn't 6 months later I became a chief, which I didn't deserve that. But I did the job what I was supposed to. And everything that came to me seemed to bear the fact that I was supposed to stay. I'm not going to go anywhere because I have to live this life. And I could not, to this day, every time I see the soldiers, sailors, Marines, I never thought too much about it, but now it gets you once in a while. You wonder why you were still here. And look at how many thousands of people who have gone on account of somebody else's foolishness. But fortunately, this is where I'm supposed to be. And I really appreciate the rest of my life. I do everything I can that I'm supposed to here. I take care of what's need to be taken care of with Petey's help and Jody's help and Lee and that young lady over there too, Sylvia. They've been great, and then I've been very fortunate. Thank you for the rest of my life. Great. But one little story that I must tell, which gets me, and I have to tell it. Jody's daughter called up one day when she was in the 6th grade, and she said, could I have Pep come to our school? I said, okay. I didn't say okay, but Eleanor, she's the instigator. She's always getting me into this kind of stuff. God love her. And she said, well, yeah, he'll come. So I come to school with them, and finally I made a talk on the military, and they all thanked me, and I waited a couple of weeks later or so, and I got a whole envelope full of thank you notes. But then Jody has a history teacher, and she approached me through Jody if I would come to her school. She's a junior high school out at North Hills. So I went there about 3 years in a row and talked about it, and they always got a response. But the last time I came, it was a couple years ago, she said, this teacher said to me, I'm going to retire, and I want you to come to my 6 classes and talk to my 6 classes. She said, what we can do is we'll tape it, the first one, if it's okay, we'll use that, and you won't have to talk no more. But of course, anybody who knows me, I like to talk. So I come out to the 6 classes. I think she picked me up about 6:30 in the morning, and I talked until about 1:30 in the afternoon. But the last class, this little wee girl came up to me and she says, could I give you a hug? I said, okay. I never thought anything else about it. Till a couple of weeks ago, the teacher came by and she dropped this packet, this manila envelope with all the thank you notes. And she said she knows who that girl was. The girl wrote, "My grandpa was in the Navy, and I don't know a thing about it. When you gave me that hug, you were my grandpa. I'd like to fall down through the floor. I never thought I'd get so much appreciation from a person like that. It was amazing, and I have to break down every time I tell it, but I have to tell it." That's about all.